My name's Kat, and tonight I'll be reading Dick's Troubles and How He Met Them by Ruth Elliott. This book was created before 1879. It's signed on the inside as a gift to a young man named William in the year 1879. Ruth Elliott was a pseudonym used by a variety of books written by the Wesleyan Conference as temperance era books to teach young children and young adults ideas to live by based on religious principles. So as you'll see, there will be some reference to that throughout the stories. The book is divided into 6 chapters, and I'll start with the first one, How Dick Fell Out of the Nest. Chapter 1. What have you got there, Dick? Birds. What sort of birds? Little young ones? Such a jolly lot. And Dick put his cap half full of tiny unfledged birds on the table. What are you going to do with them? Asked his mother. Put them in a box and feed them with worms till they grow big, and then sell them for ever so much money. They won't live in a box. Oh, yes, they will. I'm going to put holes in to let the air, and I'll give them lots to eat. How many are there? Let me see. And Dick began to count. 8. Robert gave me 4. 8 dear little baby birds taken from their warm beds and put in a cold box, said his mother quietly. I'll give them some hay to keep them warm, said Dick, tumbling them about with his rough little hands. 8 dear little baby birds taken from their mother and put into prison. They don't mind, muttered Dick. Who feeds them when they are in their nests? The old birds, of course. Who keeps them warm? Their mother. Then don't you think they mind leaving their mother? I'm going to be their mother now. I'm going to feed them, said Dick, gathering up his cap. He went into the kitchen, but soon came back. Mother, will they eat crumbs? Mrs. Marner did not speak. Mother, said Dick impatiently, will they eat crumbs? I'm not their mother. I know what is good food for my little birds, but not for yours. Who are your little birds? Asked Dick. You and Baby. How funny, said Dick, laughing. Are we really your little birds? Yes, I have to find warm nests for you and take care of you and feed you. Well, I'm going to make a warm nest for my little birds now, and I'm going to take care of them and feed them. I'm going to give them some crumbs. Mrs. Marner went on with her work. She was knitting some socks for Dick while she rocked the cradle with her foot, and as she rocked, she sang, God gave you, little birdie, your soft, warm, downy nest. I will not take you, birdie, away from mother's breast. God loves you, darling birdie. He is very good to you, so I will not hurt you, birdie, but always love you too. Mother, said Dick in a very subdued tone as he put his head in at the door, something is the matter with one of my birds. Will you come and look? Mrs. Marner put down her work and went into the kitchen. On the table was an old box with a heap of old hay in one corner, and on this hay were the poor little birds. What is the matter with that one? Said Dick, pointing to one lying quite still on its back. It won't move. It will never move again, Dick, said his mother sorrowfully. The little bird is dead. I didn't kill it, said Dick. Poor little birdie. I wonder what your mother is doing now. She doesn't know her little baby bird is dead. She lives in Ratcliffe's copse. I know where she lives. Shall I bury the bird? did it do? What did it die of? I don't know. I didn't hurt it. You must find out what it died of. If one of my birds died, I should be obliged to tell what it had died of, and if I didn't know, there would have to be an examination. How can I find out? Shall we have an examination, an inquest? Said his mother, taking up the little dead bird. What is the matter with his leg? Oh, it's broken, cried Dick in astonishment. Yes, it's broken. No wonder the little bird is dead. I'll dig it a nice deep grave. Here, give it to me, Mother. Mrs. Marner gave him the bird, and he ran off with it into the garden, where he dug a grave and put it carefully in. After filling in the grave and planting a daisy root on it, he went back. Mother, he said, will you give me my dinner now? I want to take it with me. Where to? I'm going to Langford Wood. Who is going with you? Asked his mother, as she rose once more from her work and went to the kitchen. Robert. Give me a lot. Give me some of that pie, Mother, do. His mother cut a great piece of the bread and a huge slice of meat pie, which she put in a jar. I wonder if that little bird's mother has got its dinner ready for it, she said, as she put the jar in Dick's basket. I dare see she has. It's only a worm, said Dick disdainfully. A worm is as good to the bird as meat pie is to you. Dick did not like to think about the little bird. He wished his mother would leave off talking about it. Seizing the basket, he raced across to Robert's home. Where's Robert? He asked the little girl at the gate. He's gone down to the village. He said he would come to Langford Wood with me. Well, he won't. He's gone with Willie Summers. Dick looked very cross. I don't care, he said at last. I'll go by myself. He went down the hill, feeling very angry with Robert. It's a shame, he said aloud. I'll serve him right some day. It was a beautiful spring day, and everything looked bright and cheerful. The sky was so blue, the fields so green, the flowers were growing everywhere. Overhead, a lark was singing gaily, and if it were brimful of happiness, and wanted to tell everybody. Dick wondered where its nest was and how many little baby larks were in it. At last he came to the wood, and he went out into the sunshine and into the shade of the trees. There was plenty of things to see in the woods. In the first place, there were the squirrels, such a number of them, running around from branch to branch and whisking their bushy tails most comically. Dick always liked to watch the squirrels. Then there were the rabbits, by the score, sitting up and nibbling in the most sensible manner imaginable. And then there was the stream, where huge dark water rats were to be seen, stealthily gliding along under the shadow of the overhanging banks. Ugly things they were, not pleasant to look at. Dick liked to watch them at a safe distance. There were strange insects to be found in the dark old wood, curious horned beetles and many-legged creeping things. Dick had heard that there may even be snakes, but he had never seen one himself. He began to get hungry, and at last sat down among the roots of an old tree to eat his dinner. It did not take him very long, though. He kept stopping to shy stones at the squirrels, which fortunately always missed them. I'd like to live in this wood, he thought. I wish I could live here all by myself in a tent. When I'm grown up, I think I will. Dick was always going to do wonderful things when he was grown up. When he had eaten the last crumb, he slung the basket on a stick and put the stick over his shoulder and roamed on. He did not know where he was going, but it didn't matter. He was sure to come somewhere at last. So on he went, forcing his way through brush and bramble, and sometimes over muddy pools. He found a number of curiosities, such as chrysalides and fungi and strangely shaped pebbles from the bed of the stream, all treasures to Dick, and placed as lawful spoils in his basket. The growing dimness at last warned him that the evening was near, and he began to think of going home. I wish I'd brought my supper too, he thought, as he began to retrace his steps. It's ever so long since dinner. I wonder if Mother's kept any of that pie for me. The thought of supper hurried him on, and tired as he was, he ran whenever he came to a clear space. At last he reached the end of the wood and, climbing over the fence, found himself in a field. At first he thought it was all right and was about to cross it when he saw that there was a strange ground. It was not the field he had thought it was. A little bit frightened, he turned back into the wood and, still keeping by the fence, hurried on. He was very tired now, and the sun was fast going down. Oh dear, thought Dick, this is a long wood. Oh, it was very long. It seemed as if he would never come out to the end of it. He walked as fast as he could, but it was getting dark, and he could scarcely see where he was going. Suddenly, he saw a gleam of light before him. In a few minutes, he found himself at the bend of the wood. Where was he now? Mounting on the fence, he looked around. No, there was no friendly farmhouse at the end of the field to show him he was nearly home. In fact, there was not a house to be seen. Nothing but fields before him, the wood behind him. Now he was really frightened. What was he to do? He had evidently come out of the wrong side of the wood, and to reach home must go right through it again. Looking behind him into the gloom, Dick shuddered. I'm afraid to go in there again, he thought. Oh, I wish I hadn't come. It was no use wishing. The thing was how to get home, and that Dick did not know. Oh, he went, and night came on faster. Seemed to him that even had ever done before, and yet no sign of home. In vain he shouted at the top of his voice. There was no one to answer, no one to hear. And at last, worn out and frightened, he sat down and began to cry. Oh, Mother, Mother, he sobbed. Why don't you come? I'm so frightened. But his mother was far away, waiting anxiously for her little boy to come home. I shall have to stay here all night, and I shall die, cried Dick, feeling very cold and tired and hungry. I wish I hadn't come. I'll never come again. After a bit, he got up and walked on. But his feet were sore, and he could only go very slowly. Besides, it was nearly dark, and his eyes were full of tears, and he could not see his way. Once a great briar caught him and scratched his hands and face, and once he fell over on an old log that grazed his knee. And now the stars were shining out in the clear sky. He looked up and wondered what they were like so close. He was so tired and he could not walk another step, and he had cried so much that it seems as if all his tears were shed. So he sat down on the log and nursed his knee and watched the stars. Suddenly he remembered the 7 little birds at home in the old egg box, and he wondered if they were hungry. Mother will give them something, I guess, he thought. She and Father are having supper by now, I expect. And somehow the thought of supper brought a fresh supply of tears, and they came rolling quickly down his dirty little face. I want to go home, she sobbed. I want my mother. He did not always care very much for his mother when he was safe at home with nothing the matter with him. But now that he was hurt and hungry and tired and frightened, he wanted her more than anyone else in the world. At last, quite worn out, he fell asleep, and as he slept, he dreamed. He thought he was a tiny little bird in a soft, warm nest with 2 or 3 little brothers and sisters nestling close beside him. They were very happy, very comfortable, but Dick felt rather hungry. Presently, he heard a voice, and it was a voice he knew well. It was his mother's voice saying, "Do any little birdies want their supper?" And there she stood by the nest, holding a great basin of bread and milk in her hand, and looking down upon them with loving eyes. Then Dick forgot he was a little bird, and jumping up he cried, "I do, Mother! I am so hungry. I have been lost in the woods, and I have had no supper." But he jumped too far and tumbled right out of the nest, down to the ground, and the fall awoke him. At first he didn't know where he was, but as he sat rubbing his eyes, he remembered, and he found he had rolled off the log, and it was that had awakened him. "If I hadn't awoke, I should have eaten all that bread and milk," he thought. "I wish I had gone on sleeping." But it was no use wishing. There he was, wide awake, and the bread and milk still in dreamland. Suddenly, he heard a sound in the wood behind him. It was like a heavy foot tramping on the dry twigs and branches on the ground. What could it be? At first, he was too frightened to move, but as the sound came nearer, he crept close to the log and gave a short or something like a shout. In reality, it was a queer, faint, trembling little cry of "Mother." But it was heard, the footsteps stopped, and a well-known voice called "Dick," and up jumped Dick a moment, all fear gone. "Oh, Father, here I am. I'm lost," he shouted loudly enough this time, and in another minute he was holding his father's hand very tightly indeed between both of his own little cold ones and pouring out his tale of adventures. He almost forgot that he was tired as he ran along by his father's side, and they were not so very far from home after all. Long before they got there, they could see the light shining through the doorway and knew the mother was standing there watching for them. Dick gave a shout when they were near enough to see her, and leaving his father, he ran on as fast as he could. How comfortable and warm the little room looked, and what a delicious smell there was coming from the oven. It made Dick's mouth water. In a very few minutes, he was sitting on his low seat by the fire, eating his potatoes and gravy, and telling his mother between the mouthfuls how frightened he had been. He told her about his dream, too, and thought it was very funny, but his mother looked grave. "Have you thought about those little birds, Dick?" she asked. "Yes, I thought you'd give them some bread, did you?" "If you had found a loaf of bread under that log, would you have been content to eat it and stay there all night?" said his mother quietly. "No," said Dick. I wanted to come home." "Your little birds want to go home too." "Oh, but they are nice and warm. I've made them a nest." "If a strange man had come to you and taken you to his home and told you to be happy there, what would you have done?" "I should have run away." "And yet he might have given you a warm bed." "Yes, but then it wouldn't have been my home." "That old egg box isn't the little bird's home." Dick was silent. "What makes you love your home?" asked his mother presently. Dick looked around. because it's nice and warm and because all our things are here. If you came home and found it nice and warm and all your things here, would you be satisfied? Suppose no one were in the house. It wouldn't be a real home then, said Dick. It's a real home when you are here. What would you do without me? Dick considered. I think I should cry if you didn't come soon, he said at last. Your little birds have been crying for their mother nearly all day. Dick stopped eating. I'm going to be very good to them, he said. Perhaps Robert's mother would be good to you if you were them. Would that do instead of me? No, I don't like her. I don't think your little birds like you. You have taken them away from their home, from their nice warm bed, and from their dear mother. Oh, Dick, what should I have done if someone had taken my little bird from me? Would you have cried? Asked Dick with interest. I should have cried very much. Do you think their mother is crying? I'm sure she is. She has lost her children, and one is dead. The others aren't, said Dick hastily. They're the same as dead to her. No, they aren't, because I can put them back. Mrs. Marner said no more. It was late, and Dick was sleepy, and she took him to bed. Do you think God will mind if I don't say my prayers tonight? He asked. I am so tired. Don't you want to thank him for bringing you home? He did it, Dick. Dick knelt down and shut his eyes. I'm much obliged to you for bringing me back to my mother. Then he stopped. Dick, said his mother. But he did not answer. He was fast asleep. She lifted him into bed and left him. Early the next morning, he came to her bedside and had something in his hand. Mother, he whispered, and he looked very unhappy. Another of my birds is dead. Oh, Dick, what will its mother do? I don't know, said Dick with something very like a sob. I'll take them right home, and I won't ever take a baby bird from its mother again. I'm glad, said his mother with a smile, and God is glad too, Dick. Does he care? Asked Dick. They are his little birds. He made them. Dick carried the little dead bird carefully down. It was God's little bird, and he loved it. Then he took the others and put them back in their nests, and he never took a little baby bird from its mother again. So that's the end of chapter 1, and there is an illustration that goes with each chapter. So this one is at the front of the book, since it's the first chapter, and I will see if I can get these put online in a little video for everyone to see, and they do have an initial in the corner, which I don't recognize as anyone, but in the illustrator's not listed in this book, but it has a picture of him in the woods, and it looks like he's trying to find the nest in the tree. I'm not sure. It's interesting. But each chapter has an illustration. The next chapter is called Dick's Kitten, and you'll see with each chapter there's some type of a message they're trying to relay, and there's usually some reference to God in it as well. Let's see how the kitten makes out. Hopefully better than the birds. Just having a cup of tea. All right, chapter 2. Dick's Kitten. Dick, what are you doing? I'm playing, said Dick. His mother came out and stood by him. What makes the kitten cry so? She asked. I'm only playing with her, said Dick guiltily. Where is she? Give her to me. Dick put his hand under his jacket and drew out a little white kitten. It looked wild and frightened and clung to his sleeve, crying loudly. A string was tied tightly to one of its legs, and when it was put on the floor, the poor little thing limped painfully. "What have you been doing to it, Dick?" asked his mother as she untied the string. "I only pulled the string when she ran away," muttered Dick. "Only hurt and frightened the dear little kitten. Do you know what I shall do?" "No, what?" "I shall send the kitten away if you are so unkind to it. I will not have a poor little helpless thing here to be ill-treated and hurt." "I am more sorry and displeased than I can tell you, Dick." Dick looked rather ashamed. "It was only for fun." "Would you call it fun if I tied you by your leg to a post?" "I shouldn't mind." "Well, we'll try one day if you tease the little kitten, but I hope you will never let me see you do it again." For the rest of the day, Dick left the kitten alone. He knew his mother meant what she said, and he didn't think he should much like being tied to a post. "Dick," said his father the next day at tea time, "what were you doing by the pond this afternoon?" His voice was very grave, and Dick changed color. "Ted was drowning a puppy," he said, taking a great mouthful of bread and butter in such a hurry that he nearly choked himself. "And what were you doing?" "I was watching," faltered Dick, wondering how his father knew anything about it, and wishing himself out of the house. "What did you do besides watch?" asked his father sternly. I only threw some little stones." "Only? And you only hurt the dog, I suppose." "I only hit him twice," muttered Dick. "Oh, Dick," said his mother, "I don't believe I hurt him much. What became of the puppy?" "It died." "You stoned it until it sank, I suppose." Ted's father told him to drown it. "But I never told you to stone it. I am ashamed of you, Richard." Dick was frightened. His father only called him Richard when he was very angry with him. He began to wish he had not stoned the puppy, but it was too late for wishing. "I am afraid Dick is getting very cruel," said his mother, looking both grave and sorry. "He nearly lamed the kitten yesterday. Have you hurt it today, Dick?" "Not much," said Dick, remembering how long he had held the kitten up by its tail that morning. "Well, Richard, listen to me. If I find you hurting either the kitten or any other animal again, I shall punish you severely," said his father. "Now don't forget." Dick thought he was very unlikely to forget, but in less than a week it had all passed out of his mind. The kitten used to run as fast as she could to hide when she saw him coming, and he had many a chase after her. One day he was left alone in the house. His mother had gone to the farm, taking the baby with her and leaving him to take care of the house. He had his lessons to learn, and that kept him employed for some time. But then when they were finished, he looked around for something to do. Robert was down in the village, so he could not call him to come and play, and he began to feel rather lonely. Presently he went to the water butt, and standing on a chair, looked in. It was nearly full, and he amused himself for some time by using it as a looking glass. But he soon got tired of that, and jumping down, he fetched a piece of plank and threw it in for a raft. "That's my raft," he said to himself. "Now I must load it and have a shipwreck." So he got a number of stones, which he had called his cargo, put them on the raft, and then, after pushing it slowly round the butt, suddenly tipped it up and sent all the stones to the bottom. It was good fun and something new, but he got tired even that, and at last, just as he was jumping down, he saw the kitten run past. In a moment he was after her and caught her under his kitchen dresser. "Now then, Mrs. Kitty," he said triumphantly, "I'm going to put you on my raft and push you all around the world. How will you like that?" The kitten mewed and tried very hard to get away, but Dick held her too tightly for that. Mounting on the chair, he put the poor, trembling little thing on the raft and began to push it round. In vain, the kitten mewed and looked piteously up into his face. He only pushed the raft the faster, and suddenly it went against the side of the butt, and the kitten was upset into the water. Down it went, but in a few minutes came up again, and Dick seized it and put it back on the raft. "Now this time you try to hold on," he said, slowly beginning to tip the raft. "When people are shipwrecked, they ought to hold on hard. You are such a silly little thing. Now don't cry, but hold on." But it was no use holding on. The kitten did hold on as long as she could, and then fell again into the water and sank. Dick put out his hand and waited for it to come up, and just as it was coming, he heard his mother's voice. He was not generally afraid of her, but he suddenly remembered what she had said about teasing the kitten, and in a great fright, he jumped down and ran in. "Come and take the baby, Dick," said his mother. "I must not take him to the farm again when I have a basket to carry as well. He is so heavy." Dick took the baby, but did not speak. He was too frightened to speak. Of course, the kitten was drowned, and what would his father do? No wonder he was frightened. He sat down, feeling as if he could like to run away and hide. Now he wished his mother would take the baby and let him go and fish the dead kitten out and bury it. He thought if he could only do that, his father need never know he had killed it, and he would escape punishment. Then he remembered that he had left the chair by the butt, and he went red and then white. If his mother went out and saw it there, she would look into the water and see the kitten, and it would all be found out. He watched her breathlessly as she took off her bonnet and shawl and went into the kitchen to hang them up. Then she went out, and his heart beat fast. What would she say? But she said nothing. She brought the chair in and put it in its proper place, and without a word, and it was a very common thing for Dick to take chairs out and leave them, so she thought nothing of it. Then she began to get the supper, and Dick thought he should never get out. The baby was wide awake, and he was obliged to play with it and amuse it to keep it from crying. If he could only get 2 or 3 minutes just to hide the kitten. At last his mother said, "Now give me the baby and get your supper, Dick. Your father will be home directly." Dick jumped up. "I'm going to fetch my cap in the garden," he said. "I won't be a minute." "Richard, sit down and get your supper," said his father's voice, and there he stood in the doorway. Dick dared not disobey. He sat down without a word. His father came in and sat down in his armchair, but did not speak. Dick stole a look at him and saw that he was very grave, and his heart began to beat fast again. Oh dear, I suppose his father knew. He began to eat, watching his father's face all the time. At last he had finished and went to wish his mother good night. "Where's the kitten, Dick?" asked his father slowly. Dick stood perfectly still. "I don't know," he said as soon as he could speak. "When did you see it last?" "I haven't seen it since tea," faltered Dick. His father looked at him. "Is that the truth, Richard?" "Yes, father." "What have you been doing since tea?" "Playing." "By yourself?" "Yes, father." "And you have not seen the kitten?" "No, father." And Dick's voice was very low and trembling. "Look up," said his father, but he couldn't. He dared not look at him. "Dick," said his mother sadly, for she knew he had done something wrong. "Can't you look your father in the face? What have you been doing to make you hang your head like that?" Nothing, whispered Dick. Do you know anything at all about the kitten? No. Go to bed, Richard, said his father sternly. If you do not know anything about the kitten, God knows it. Remember that. Dick went upstairs, feeling more miserable than he had ever done in his life. He undressed very quickly, jumped into bed, drew the clothes up over his head. He could hear his father's voice below and wished he could hear what he was saying. If he found out about the kitten, what would he do to him? While he was thinking, he heard his mother's steps on the stairs. She came to the bedside and spoke. Dick? Dick made no answer. Dick, she said again, and he was afraid not to answer now. Yes, Mother, he said faintly. I want to speak to you. Come up. So he had to get from under the clothes and put his head on the pillow. Did my little boy say his prayers tonight? Asked his mother gently. Yes, said Dick. What did you say? I asked God to bless everybody and make me a good boy, for Christ's sake, amen. What's a good boy, Dick? Dick thought. A boy who doesn't do naughty bad things, he said at last. And what are naughty bad things? Stealing, said Dick. That is one. What else? Setting fire to houses and hayricks, continued Dick. What else? Shooting people and knocking them down. But those are not likely things for little boys to do. What are the bad things that you have asked God to keep you from doing? Being disobedient, whispered Dick. Well, what else? Telling lies? Going on. Being cruel to kittens, said Dick, beginning to cry. Did you ask God to make you a good boy this morning? Yes, Mother. And have you tried all day? Not quite, I forgot, sobbed Dick. What are you going to do tomorrow? I will be a good boy tomorrow, Mother. I won't disobey you, nor tell lies, nor... He stopped short. He was just going to say, nor tease the kitten, but he remembered that the kitten was lying drowned at the bottom of the water butt, and he could never tease it again. Nor what? Said his mother. But he did not speak. He dared not tell her that he had drowned the kitten. She waited a few minutes, then got up. Good night, Dick, she said. I hope my little boy had something to say to me before he went to sleep. Good night, Mother, said Dick. His mother went down, and he lay thinking. Somehow he couldn't go to sleep. It was a bright moonlight night, and at last he jumped out of bed and he went to the window. Pushing it open, he leaned out and looked into the water butt. The water looked black, and he could see the stars reflected in it. He wondered if the poor little kitten was dreadfully frightened. How she did mew. I wish I hadn't drowned her. And presently 2 big tears began to roll down his face. I didn't mean to drown her, he sobbed. Only Mother came, and I was frightened, and I jumped down. To whom do you think Dick was talking? Only to himself. To a curious part of himself called his conscience. He wanted to make out to his conscience that he had not been so very, very wicked after all. But it was of no use. You drowned the kitten, said conscience sternly. It's not that wicked, said Dick. But he knew it was. I'll never do it again, he sobbed. Oh, my dear little kitty. For Dick loved the kitten very much, although he was so fond of teasing it. What are you doing out of bed, Dick? Was his mother's voice, and he turned round. Oh, Mother, I can't go to sleep, he cried, putting his arms around her and hiding his face in her shoulder. Why not? I drowned the kitten. There was silence for a minute. But though Dick was frightened and knew he should be punished, he felt happier now that he had told her the truth. I didn't mean to, he whispered. What were you doing with it? Only playing shipwreck, and she wouldn't hold on, and then I heard you and jumped down, and she was drowned. I couldn't help it. What made you jump down when you heard me? I was afraid you'd be cross. Why should I be cross? Dick was silent. Speak, Dick. Why do you think I should be cross? Because I was teasing the kitten, said Dick guiltily. You were doing more than teasing it. You were frightening and hurting the poor little thing. I am sorry, sobbed Dick. Sorry because I know and I am displeased with you? I'm sorry I drowned my kitty, said Dick, with tears coming faster. She is dead and at the bottom of the water by now. And a very good thing for the kitten that she is. She is out of your reach now, Dick. You cannot hurt her any more. I don't want to hurt her. I never wanted to hurt her. I never want to hurt her again if I hadn't drowned her, sobbed Dick. I love my little kitty. We don't tease and hurt things we really love. Your love for the kitten was a very strange love, Dick. I was only playing, Mother. I didn't mean to drown it. No, I don't think you did, but you mean you teased it? Dick was silent. One thing leads to another. You begin by teasing, and that goes to hurting, and you finish by killing. You say you loved your kitten, and now you have drowned it. Oh, Mother, I am sorry. I'll never do it again, sobbed Dick. I'll never tease or hurt anything ever again, so long as I live. And how about asking God to make you good? Do you know what you have done today? Drowned my kitty. What else? What made you so afraid of me? I was disobeying you, whispered Dick. And when you said you had to not seen the kitten, what was that? A lie, said Dick. One sin leads to another. You see, Dick, I wonder if you will ever think of that. I have told you already very often. It was very late, so Mrs. Marner made him go back to bed, and the next morning he came down feeling very unhappy about his dear little kitty. As he sat down, something white ran across the floor, and with a shout he ran after it. Oh, Mother, here's my kitty alive again. Oh, I'm so glad. I'll never hurt you again, my kitty, he shouted. And he was very kind to the kitty after that. His father had seen him jump down from the butt and had pulled the kitten out in time to save its life. Dick did not get off without a punishment, but it made him remember what perhaps he might have forgotten, that it is both cruel and wicked to tease and hurt animals. And that's the end of chapter 2. So the kitten made it out alive, which is better than the 2 birds that died in chapter 1. Okay, I'm going to read one more. I'm going to try to read in hour increments. So this one is called Why Dick Fell in the River. And I wanted to mention that the illustration for this one, when he refers to a butt, B-U-T-T, it's actually what looks kind of like a whiskey barrel where they would have kept water, possibly rainwater, outside the back door. And that's what he was playing with his raft and kitten in the previous chapter. And I will, as I said, put up those illustrations. So this one is about why Dick fell in the river. Let's see what brought that on. Chapter 3. Look, Mother, at my new whip. Miss Marner looked up. Where did you get that? She asked. Willie Summers gave it to me. I give him my top for it. Isn't it a beauty? I don't like you having such big whips, Dick. You will do something of type of mischief with it. No, I won't do any mischief. I'll take care. The last time you had a whip, you hurt the baby with it. It isn't a good plaything. Oh, I won't hurt the baby, said Dick, flourishing his whip. That is what you always say. You won't do a thing and then you go and do it. I wish you were more obedient." "I don't like being obedient. When I am a man, I won't mind anybody," muttered Dick. "When you are a man, you will know better than to talk like that. Men have to be obedient as well as children," said his mother quietly. This was a new idea to Dick, and he stood still to think about it. His father had to mind anybody, he asked at last. "Certainly. He has to do what his master tells him." "But suppose he hadn't a master, then he wouldn't have to mind anybody," persisted Dick. "No one can do just what they like," replied his mother. "What was the text you were learning for school last night?" "Oh, I know that text," said Dick crossly. "I've always had to learn that, ever since I was a baby. How long before supper?" "Your supper's on the kitchen table. Go and have it, and then go to bed like a good boy. And Dick, I won't have you take that whip upstairs." "Why not?" "Because you will sure to knock something down. Now mind what I say, Dick, and be obedient." "There's nothing to knock down," grumbled Dick. "I took my top to bed." "Yes, and lay on it and woke your father and me by shouting that someone was hurting you," said his mother. "Put your whip on the shelf till the morning." Dick went out to the kitchen where his supper was waiting for him. He took the basin of bread and milk to the back door and sat down on the step to eat it. Every now and then he stopped eating to smack his whip at Whisker, his little rough dog, who wisely kept at a safe distance, though the bread and milk looked very tempting, and he thought it very possible he might come in for a share if only he got near enough to pat his master's elbow. But little dogs know what a temptation a whip is to little boys, and Whisker was wise. The bread and the milk was at last finished, and Dick got up from his seat and put the basin on the table. Then he went to the door to take a farewell smack with his whip. What a noise did it make! Dick thought there was never a whip that made such a firm, long lash. "It's as good as father's," he said to himself, "only it's a bit smaller. When I'm a man, I'll have the largest whip in the world. I will, won't I? I'll crack it, and won't I make the horses go?" The sound of the cart coming down the lane disturbed the castles in the air. It was his father coming from market, and Mr. Marner never liked to see Dick up when he came home late and tired. The fact was, Dick was so troublesome. He always wanted to look into his father's baskets and peep into the pockets of his market coat and open any packet he might find. Once he had upset a quantity of mignonette seed, and another time he had dropped a packet of mustard, breaking the paper and scattering the contents on the floor. "When Dick has learned to be obedient," said his father, "I shall be pleased to have him with me. But now he must go to bed before I come home." So Dick, who was a little afraid of his father, hurried upstairs, taking his whip with him. At first he did not think of what his mother had said, but as he heard her voice below, he remembered that he was not to bring the whip upstairs. He stood before the window, trying to make up his mind what to do. Should he take the whip down and put it on the shelf, or should he keep it? "If I hide it under the clothes, Mother will never know," he thought. "I don't want to take it down. I want to look at it directly as I awake." There was a battle going on between right and wrong, but it was not a fair one. Dick had let wrong win so often that by this time it was very much stronger than right. So right had no chance and lost the battle, and Dick took the whip to bed. He was used to doing what he was told not to do, that his disobedience did not trouble him much. Just for a few minutes he felt uncomfortable, but he was soon asleep with the whip safely hidden among the clothes. The sun was shining brightly into the little room when he awoke the next morning, and he jumped out of bed with a great hurry, for it was Saturday, the whole holiday. Dressing very quickly and drawing the whip from his hiding place, he went to the window to see if Robert were up. Robert was a school and playfellow who lived near, and the two boys used to see who could be up first. Nope, Robert was not in his window, nor in the garden waiting for him. With a triumphant shout and smack of the whip, Dick turned to rush downstairs. But as he turned, the whip caught round the bedpost. He gave it a pull, but still it was fast. He pulled harder, and smash went the handle through the window behind. Then Dick was frightened. He stood looking at the broken glass and wondering what his father would say. He did not trouble much about his mother. She was always so kind and gentle, but if she told his father of his disobedience, he would punish him severely. The pieces of glass lay on the sill and floor, and he picked them carefully up and put them in his cap. It was not the proper place for glass, but Dick put everything in his pockets or cap. Then he went down and into the garden to throw it away. After he had called Robert, and they went off blackberrying in the copse near, till the sun was high in the sky. Robert wanted to go home at breakfast time, but though Dick was very hungry, he dared not go. "I broke my window," he told Robert in confidence, "and my father will be so angry. I want to stay out till he's gone, and perhaps my mother will get the window mended before he comes home." So he stayed till, from a break in some blackberry bushes, he saw his father go down the lane. Then he went home. His mother did not speak to him when he went in, but cut him some bread in silence, looking very sorrowful. She had found out about the window and guessed how it had been done. Dick sat down and began to eat, every now and then casting furtive glances at his mother. He very much wanted to know if she had told his father and what he had said, but he did not dare ask. She looked so grieved. "Where's your whip, Dick?" she asked at last. "Out on my shelf," said Dick, wishing he had hidden it down by the bridge. He was afraid she was going to take it away. "Where was it all night?" "In my bed," he answered, feeling very guilty. "Is my little boy never going to learn the lesson of obedience?" said Mrs. Marner, as she began to wash up the breakfast things. "I'm not very little, I'm getting big," muttered Dick. "Too big to mind your mother?" When Jesus was a child, he was obedient to his earthly parents, and when he grew up, he obeyed God. He was never too big to mind. I don't guess he minded his mother much. The Bible says he did. Dick was silent. If the Bible said it, it must be true, of course. He rather wished the Bible had not said it. "God has promised a special blessing to the children who obey their parents," continued his mother quietly. "What is it?" said Dick, thinking perhaps it might be something worth having. "Honor thy father and thy mother," interrupted Dick. "That's my text. But that's honor, not obey. A child who obeys honors. Does 'days shall be long in the land' mean that I always obey you? I shall live for years and years to come? It means that God will bless you and love you and take care of you. He takes care of me now. Perhaps he is waiting to see if you will be obedient. He is so good and patient. And if I didn't get obedient, will he kill me?" asked Dick, rather frightened. "He may not do that, but he may not love you." Dick was quiet for a bit, then began again. "Is father angry?" "Yes," replied Mother. "Will he whip me? I don't know what he will do. He will punish you in some way. Why are you so afraid of him, Dick?" "Because he will hurt me," said Dick, beginning to cry. "He won't hurt you half as much as your Father in heaven will if you are not a good boy. I would rather have an earthly father angry with me than my heavenly. And I'm to go down to Glazier's and tell him to come and mend my window." "Yes, go down to the glazier and tell him to come and mend your window. You can put on your cap and go at once. Come straight back, because I want you. Run all the way there and back." "What do you want me for?" "Never mind what I want you for. I want you, and that is enough. Now run off and come back quickly." Dick seized his cap and whip and rushed off down the lane. The glazier lived in the village, a quarter of a mile away. He got there in a few minutes and gave his message, adding on his account, "You are to come now, this morning, directly." He wanted to have it done before his father came home. "How did the window get broken?" asked the glazier. "I broke it," said Dick. "With that great whip?" "I'll be bound." Not liking the turn the conversation had taken, Dick ran off. When he got to the bridge, he stopped, and scrambling over the fence, went down to the waterside to see if any fish were there to be seen. "Oh, what a whopper," he said. A large fish glided quietly away among the huge stones near the bank. "If I had a fishing rod, I'd catch them, and I'd take them home for dinner. Wouldn't Mother be glad?" But as he had said, an uncomfortable feeling came over him. At that moment, his mother was probably looking down the lane to see if he were coming. "She only wants me to mind the baby," he grumbled. "I guess she is going to the farm and doesn't want to take him with her. I wish I had a fishing rod." He stooped down and looked into the deep, quiet water. 1, 2, 3 big fishes, and there were 2 more swimming away. In a state of excitement, he jumped in. "If I've got a long pin and a crook in it, it'll do for a hook," he said, tugging at his collar, behind where a pin were generally to be found. "I'll fasten it to my whip, and then I'll have a jolly fishing rod." He found the pin, crooked it, fastened it to the end of the long lash. Then he took out his knife and began to dig in the bank for a worm, which he presently found and stuck on the pin. Now the fishing rod was complete, and he flung the bait hook as far as he could, as far as it would go, and sitting down on the bank, waited impatiently for a bite. But an hour went by, and then still the wary fish swam silently and safely past. Not one took the slightest notice of tempting bait. "I wondered if they could see the pin," thought Dick, and he pulled it and looked at it, but it was all right, and he threw it back. Sometimes he forgot what he was doing and smacked the whip, and then, of course, the worm fell off, and he had to get another one. Once he thought he heard his mother calling him, and he crept under the bridge till he had time to get tired and go home again. Whenever he heard a cart coming or any passer-by, he hid, and so the morning went on. Now and then he would wonder if his mother had gone to the farm and if she had taken the baby with her. Then he wondered if she would be very angry with him because he had not gone home. But he didn't like this last thought, so he whistled it away. Then he began to wonder where Robert was, and wish he would come and keep him company. He had half a mind to run and find him, but was afraid his mother might see him and make him go home. At last he got so tired of sitting and stood up. Just as he rose, something seized the worm at the end of the lash, and it gave a violent jerk, which, taking him off his guard, pulled him off the bank and into the river. In he went, with a scream and a splash enough to frighten all the fishes within hearing, and a man in the field near ran to see what was the matter. He soon pulled Dick out and shook some of the water off of him. He was not much hurt, but there was rather a keen wind that morning, and the man told him to go home as fast as he could and get his wet things off, or perhaps he would take cold. Very frightened and subdued, Dick hurried home, keeping close to the edge of the hedge all the way. His mother was busy baking, and crept in, feeling very miserable and ashamed. "Mother, I've fallen in the river," he said, and then he began to cry, for something was hurting his knee, and something was hurting his head, and something worse still was hurting his heart. Without asking any questions, his mother began to take off his wet things. There was a big bruise on his knee and one on his forehead, and the skin was grazed off on his elbow. "Oh, it does smart," he cried as his mother touched it gently with a cloth. "I wish that great horrid fish hadn't pulled me in. I couldn't help the fish pulling me in." "You could have helped being by the river," said his mother. "I wanted to bring home fish for dinner," sobbed Dick. His mother did not say anything. Then she put him to bed and put something on his bruises, and then went downstairs. "Mayn't I get up soon?" he asked as she left the room. "When your clothes are dry, and not before." "May I have some dinner?" "Yes, I shall give you some dinner." For some time, Dick was very quiet. In the first place, he was sore and hurt, and it hurt him to move. In the second, he was wondering how his father would punish him for his disobedience. Altogether, he felt very unhappy. He could hear his mother moving about downstairs, getting dinner ready, and at last she came up. "Mother," he said, sitting up in bed, why did I fall in the water?" "I suppose there was no one there to keep you from falling in," said his mother. "I never fell in before," said Dick ruefully. "Because you have always been taken care of." "Who took care of me?" "Your Father in heaven." "Why didn't he take care of me today?" asked Dick, with interest. "I think you know, Dick." Dick twisted about for some minutes in silence. "Was it because I was disobedient?" he said at last. "Well, I should think so. He has not promised once to take care of children who do not obey and honor their parents. Do you suppose God would like to go with you to the river and watch over you when he knew I was waiting for you at home and could not go on with my work because I had to mind baby?" "No," said Dick. "Well, if God were not there to take care of you, what was there to prevent you from falling in?" "Nothing, I suppose." "You might have been drowned, or you might have been hurt by yourself seriously." "I am hurt seriously," interrupted Dick. "No, you haven't broken an arm or a leg. I'm not sorry you have those bruises, Dick." Dick opened his eyes. "They hurt dreadfully," he said, trying to squeeze out another tear. "Perhaps they will make you think another time that it is better to have God to take care of you than to have your own way and disobey me. If I'd minded you, I shouldn't have fallen in, should I?" "Certainly not." "What was the beginning, Dick?" "I brought my whip to bed." "Yes, and then I broke the window and had to go to the glazier's." "Yes, you see, Dick, it began with disobedience." "I wish I hadn't brought the whip up," whispered Dick. "That would have saved you all this pain. And where is your whip?" "Oh," exclaimed Dick, springing almost out of bed. "It's in the river. Oh, Mother, I shall lose it." "I don't think you will ever see it again." "That must be your punishment, Dick." "Did God do it on purpose?" "I think it is fairly likely that he did." At first, Dick looked as if he were going to cry, and then he looked cross, And then a very queer look came over his face, and he said, "It serves me right." I think so too, don't you? I mean, that one was like point on as far as spiritually advising, obey God or he shall not love you. I thought that was a little much. But Fitz Whiskers, I don't know if you're still there, but the name of the book is Dick's Troubles and How He Met Them. It's by Ruth Elliott, and it is a book written in the late 1870s, meant for children and young people, to give them guidance. And this time period, a lot of the books are a little bit harsh in some of their lessons. The word glazier also, Glazier. I'm assuming that means someone that fixes glass, as in you glaze glass. And the picture for this one, let me go back and look. Let's see what the picture looks like. Picture for this one has him, he's looking a little bit older. I'm noticing as the book goes along, I think that the boy is getting older, because he looks older than he did in the first one. And this time you see the butt, which was the stored water with a plank sticking out of it in the background. That was from the story about the kitten. And then you have a picture of the boy with the whip, which is like a long stick with a piece of, looks like leather stretched out at the end, and a bowl of food, and his dog Whiskers is also in the picture. All right, that is going to be the end for tonight. There are 3 remaining chapters to this book, 4, 5, and 6. So we still have to find out what Dick did with his cake. That will be the next one. And then Dick's first theft and Dick's revenge are the last 3 chapters. So I hope you'll tune in again and hear the rest of this story. I'm enjoying reading. This is my first time reading. I'm trying to read through some books that have been on my shelf for a long time. And I hope you'll join me again.